can give me a reminder?
Okay, can.
Huh? Okay, you know why? I wanted to have one, but as usual, we have it on Thursday, yeah? Okay, now, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, your midterm exam is on the 21st, is it? Is it on the 21st, your midterm exam? Have you all received your timetable? Hello?
Timetable for what, sir?
For your midterm exam.
No, haven't. I haven't received.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, your law paper is on the 21st of this month, if I'm not mistaken, on the 21st. Because the exam, uh, is it around, but I think the exam beginning on the 19th of this month, if I'm not mistaken, 19th. But I thought you all have your timetable di belum lagi, yeah? Okay, tak apa. Okay, but what I will do is that, yeah, I will finish off whatever areas are set question for your midterm, yeah, before you all go into your exam. So that's why maybe not only on Monday, coming Monday, but I might even have one more extra class for you all before that. Okay? So that means, yeah, all of you are only free on Mondays.
Okay, sir.
Yeah? Only Mondays you are free, other days you are not free. Hello?
I guess so.
That means Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, preoccupied.
Friday for real estate students, we didn't have class, but not sure if the QS student have class.
Oh, you're not sure on that, yeah? Okay, now I can see only 13 names here. One is still missing. Including me is 14 there. But one is still missing. I'm not sure who is that, yeah? But anyway, we'll start, yeah? Okay, now, um, I'm going to do on occupiers liability law today. Occupiers liability. I think I've already sent that the slide to you all, yeah? Uh, I'm going to base on the slide and I'm going to uh, explain to you all. I think it's better for you all to follow also, yeah? I'm going to follow the slide here. I think all are in already now. All are in. Yeah, just let me just take a photo of the thing here because your college wanted whether any students are missing or not. Yeah, let me just take a snap of it. 1 second, please. Yeah. Okay. Right. Occupiers liability. Occupiers liability. Yeah. Okay. Um, can you all go into that slide? The occupiers liability. Hello. Hello. Can you all go into Moodle and
Yeah, can.
you all can see that, isn't there? Okay. Now going back on the occupiers liability, I'm going to go slow on this, yeah, because you have one question in your uh, midterm exam on this topic, yeah. Okay. Now this topic occupiers liability, yeah. The purpose of this topic, occupiers liability. Can you all hear me? Hello. Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This topic occupies liability comes under law of tort. This topic occupies liability comes under law of tort. You all know what's law of tort, right? Okay. Now, occupies liability means, yeah, that means, yeah, occupies liability means the owner of the premises, the owner of the premises, the owner of the premises should take responsibility. The owners of the premises should take responsibility if anyone were to live in that premises. If they're injured or their vehicles are damaged, then the owner of that premises will be liable towards the person who has suffered the loss or injury or damage to their property. So that means, yeah, the occupiers liability covers if let's say you are the owner of a building, let's say the class rep is the owner of a building. She's the owner of the building, yeah. And let's say people are living in that building. Let's say she has rented out that building for officers and all these things, yeah, for rental. And if anyone injured while in that premises, then the owner of the premises would be held liable. So that means they have to take responsibility if any injury, loss, or damage suffered by the occupant in that premises. Okay, this is what you mean by occupier's liability. So that means here the owner of the building must ensure that the building is safe and sound for all who are living in there. Now, before I go a bit further, yeah, so that means, how to say that you are the owner of the building? Let's say there's a big building. So you must establish, first of all, to say that Mr. A is the owner of the building. How to establish he's the owner of the building? Maybe he would have leased that building to somebody. These are the things we are going to look into now. Now, as far as Malaysia is concerned, yeah, we do not, very important, yeah, as far as Malaysia is concerned, we do not have an act, an act of parliament to govern on the occupier's liability. We do not have a acta to cover on occupier's liability in Malaysia. We do not have a law. So we depend on the common law, that means on a case-to-case basis situation, and also we rely on the laws of England. That means, yeah, there is two acts which you need to know. There are two acts which you need to know. That is not a Malaysian act, but English act. That means that act came from the British Parliament. One is the Occupiers Liability Act 1957. One is the Occupiers Liability Act 1957. Okay, this 1957 Act, yeah, only governs, this occupiers liability only governs for those who are staying in that premises and if they're injured. Okay, and then we have another act, Occupiers Liability Act 1984. We have another act called Occupiers Liability Act 1984. This particular act covers on visitors who are coming into that premises. So they are not living in that premises, but visitors. Okay, when you say visitors, can be a person to come into the building to deliver goods, or could be any other person, guests. These all are visitors. So, so that means, yeah, this particular Act 1984 covers on those who are coming in as a guest into that building. If they're injured or they suffer a loss, is the owner of the building liable? Yes. So this is what we are going to look into today's lecture here. So that means occupiers liability. As far as Malaysia is concerned, we do not have we do not have a law to govern on occupiers liability in Malaysia. So we heavily depend on the English law. But of course, we have some leading Malaysian cases to touch on occupiers liability case law. But we do not have a statute, or we do not have an acta to govern on the occupiers liability in Malaysia. So we depend on the English law. That is the Occupiers Liability Act 1957 and the Occupies Liability Act 1984, which covers for third parties and for visitors and visitors. We'll also look into visitors can be categorized into two categories. Visitors who are coming in legally and visitors who are coming in without permission. Let's say you're coming in without a permission, but you're injured. So what is the law governs there? That also we are going to look into. So far so good. Any question, please? Hello, Joshua. Are you in, Joshua?
Yeah, sir. No question. Sorry. No
Okay,
question.
okay. No question. Shirley, do you have any question to ask me?
No, but maybe
Okay,
you can talk slightly slower because you're a little bit fast.
but yeah, okay. Any others? Any other comments, please? Any other comments? Okay, so far is it clear, or is it you want me to repeat again? Hello, so far is it clear, or you want me to repeat again?
I
Because
want to ask the
ah
occupiers liability
ah
1957, right? That is English law, is it?
yes, English law.
Okay.
As what I said, yeah. In Malaysia, we do not have a ACTA or Act of Parliament to govern on occupiers liability. So we depend on the English Act of Parliament. Yeah, that is the Occupiers Liability Act 1957 and the Occupiers Liability Act 1984. 1984. These are the two acts which we rely on there. And then, of course, we have the case law, the Malaysian case law to support here. So, like you see, like other things, we have an act, Malaysian like a law of contract. We have the Contract Act and all the things, right? But even a law of tort, yeah, defamation. We have the Defamation Act of Malaysia 1957. But as far as occupiers liability is concerned, we do not have a separate law, Malaysian law. So we heavily depend on the English law to guide us on this. But of course, we have the Malaysian cases to support. Okay, so I'll be doing some English cases and also some Malaysian cases.
Sorry,
Okay, hello?
sorry, because just now I didn't write in. For the owner, for the definition of occupier liability, owner of the premises should take responsibility. Then what is the next?
Okay, the owners of the building should be responsible if any occupant in that building suffered any injury or suffered any damage to their property, then the owner of the building should be responsible to pay compensation. The owners of the premises should pay compensation towards the occupant of that particular building. So the 1957 Act, yeah, governs on occupants, whereas the 1984 Occupiers Liability Act 1984, yeah, the amended one, yeah, covers on visitors, guests, and all these things. People who are coming in there only for a short period. Okay, while they are in the building for 1 hour, they're injured, or their property has been stolen or damaged. So is the owner of that premises still liable or not? This is what that particular act is covering. Okay, so far so good. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. So now, yeah, what I will do, yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay, now what I will do, yeah, I will follow the slide. Yeah, I'll follow the slide and go one by one now, yeah. Okay, that's what y'all can see the first slide. Yeah, can you all see the first slide? But I will cover whatever you need to know as far as your exam is concerned. Yeah. Okay. Now, the first slide, can you see a person who is in control of the land or property must conduct themselves in certain manner in order to avoid injuring others. So that means, yeah, that sentence here is telling you if you are the owner of that premises, the owner of the premises. It can be just merely a land. It can be just merely a land without any building, or it can be a land with a building in there. Okay, that is what you say, that the owner is in control of that particular land and also the building in there, isn't it? So he should ensure that anyone who's living in that particular land or building should, if they're injured or any loss or damage they suffered, the person who is in control of that particular premises should take responsibility. Should take responsibility. That is what you mean by that sentence, yeah? Okay, much of the law on occupiers liability has been statutory based. What do you mean by that? Yeah, much of the law on occupiers liability has a statutory base. That means, yeah, it is governed by an act of parliament. That is the 1957 Act and the 1984 Act. Okay, so can you see the third sentence, a necessary body of case law is developed to clarify the content of this statute. So that means, yeah, there are cases, there are cases to enlighten, there are cases to enlighten or to explain what that particular act is saying. That particular act. Sometimes the act will be saying certain things, there'll be a case to support that. That I'll explain in due time, yeah. Okay, now, if the last, can you see a last sentence there? Three key definitions which are relevant to applying the act. We must define who is an occupier, what their premises are, and who is lawful visitors. So here, very, very important, you must define who is an occupier. Occupier, who is an occupier? Is it the owner of the building or the person who has, let's say I've rented the building from the owner. Am I the occupier? These are the things we are going to look into. Now, can you see the second slide? Yeah. Can you see the second slide? This particular, can you see a case there? Witt versus Lacon. Can you see a case there? That is the case, yeah. Very important. You need to remember this case here, please. Yeah, you need to remember this case. You know why this case is very, very important? Because this is the case which gives you a definition who is an occupier. Who is an occupier of that building? This is the case which gives you a definition. Okay. So that means, yeah, simply this case is saying whoever who is in control, who is in control of that particular building, or whoever owns that building is the occupier. Whoever in control of the building or whoever is the owner of the building is the occupier. So that means, yeah, what they are trying to say is that whoever is in control of the building, they are the owners. Sometimes the owner would have rented out that building to somebody or would have leased out the building to somebody for 3 years. So the person who has taken the lease, he is in control of that premises, right? So he becomes the occupier. If anyone who is living in there, if they're injured, then that person is responsible because the actual owner already leased that property to that person. Are you following? Okay, now can you see the second paragraph there? Yeah, occupier does not have to actually occupy, has living in that premises. The occupier not necessary, he must stay in that building. The occupier not necessary, he must stay in that building, not necessary. But he must ensure that the building or the premises is safe and sound for everyone who's living in there. Like example, let's say a tenant. A tenant is living in a house, renting a room or renting that house. Now, who must ensure that that particular house is safe and sound? Is it the owner of that premises or the tenant? Who must ensure? Hello, I mean most of you are real estate students here. Who must ensure? Let's say I'm renting a house. If let's say there is a leakage of electric and it has caused damage to the house, am I has the tenant liable or the owner of the premises liable?
The owner of the building.
And the owner of the building would be responsible, right? The owner of the building must make sure that the building is safe and sound for everyone to live in there. Am I right? So because he's in control of that, he must ensure that the building is safe and sound. If anything goes wrong, then they'll be pointing the finger at the owner of the building because the owner of the building did not maintain that particular premises or that building. So therefore, the occupant there has suffered some injury or whatever loss. Okay, clear. Okay, so that means so this act is telling not necessary, very important. This act is telling not necessary the owner of the building must live in that building, not necessary. He can be living elsewhere, but he still owes responsibility if any damage or injury takes place in that building because he's the owner or he's the person who is in control of that particular property or building. Are you clear? Hello?
Yeah, I'm clear.
Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to the third slide. Yeah, I'm going to the third slide. Yeah. Okay. So earlier we just explaining who is the owner, am I right? Now, what do you mean by premises? What do you mean by premises? Defining premises. Well, simply in many scenarios, there exist several preferential issues which should be noted. Section 1, subsection 3, sub A of the Act. So when I say of the Act, we are referring to the Occupiers Liability Act 1957. Here, note that it is not just land and building which might be considered premises, but including vessel, vehicles, and aircraft. So that means here, this particular Act not only covers land and buildings, but it also covers vessels, vehicles, and aircraft. You know what are vessels here? Hello? Do you all know what is a vessel? Hello? Okay, vessel is another word for ship. S-H-I-P. Vessel is another word for ship. Vessels here, normally they used to carry goods, goods, containers and all the things, vessels. Ship, normally passengers plus goods. Vehicles, you all know, yeah, vehicles include lorries, bus and all the things, yeah, and aircraft. So that means, yeah, let's say, so what is implying, let's say you are the owner of the ship. Okay, let's say somebody is chartering the ship or the vessel for 6 months. Let's say they're chartering the ship or the vessel for 6 months. If it's, let's say, it's not well maintained, if anything goes wrong, then the owner of the vessel is responsible. So that means here, including aircraft. Aircraft means we are talking about planes. So that means here, this act not only covers on land and buildings, but also vessels, vehicles, and aircraft. Like, let's say you're hiring a taxi and you're going in the taxi, and let's say the taxi of the owner is driving and it's not well maintained, and let's say one of the tires just came off halfway through and you are injured. Can you sue the owner of that particular taxi? Cannot. Hello? Can you sue the owner of that vehicle?
Can.
Can. Of course, here the owner has failed to maintain a standard. He has failed to maintain a standard for it to run properly. Am I right? So obviously here he will be held responsible. So section 1, subsection 3, sub A of the Act refers to vehicles and vessels and aircraft here. So that means here, this particular act, when you say premises, not only buildings, not only land, but it also covers vessels, vehicles, and aircraft. So that means, yeah, so you can come to a conclusion, this both act, the 1957 Act and the 1984 Act, covers all these things as far as premises is concerned. Okay.
Teacher, for the
Ah,
subsection A, the section A subsection 1A is which act?
but then
The section 1 subsection A1, 1A is which act?
the 57 Act, 57.
Okay, okay.
This Act covers on 57. You see, don't get confused. Yeah, the 57 Act covers on this. The 87, the 84 Act, yeah, only covers for third party, third party, third party visitors and unlawful visitors, legal visitors, unlawful visitors, and guests. It covers on that. Okay. Now, can you see the next one? Of particular note is that temporary and mobile structure are included under this definition. Okay, what do you mean by this temporary structure? Scaffoldings. You know what scaffoldings, right? You know scaffoldings? Hello, do you all know what is a scaffolding? Okay, okay, scaffolding. You know what is scaffolding? Before they construct a building, before a building is being constructed, yeah. Okay, normally they'll put in temporary structure for people to climb up, to put up the cement and bringing up things and unloading things and all the things, right? That is what you mean by scaffolding. Okay, even yes, okay, and also it referring to ladders, ladders, tangga. If it's not maintained properly, let's say one of the workers is going in that going up the ladder and it give way and they injured, still the owner of that premises is liable, including like construction site, construction site, they will have a kongsi. You know what's a kongsi, right? A temporary structure for the contract workers to stay while, let's say, they're putting up a 20-story building. It might take 1 year to complete the building, right? They will put in temporary structure for them to stay there, right? They, in Malay we call it kongsi. Isn't there? If that collapse and the injured, still the owner is liable. But are you following? Hello?
Yes, yes, yes.
You follow, yeah? Okay. Now, um, now take down one case. I give you one case, yeah. I think it's not in the slide, yeah. Take down this case, yeah. I'll read out, yeah, very important, yeah. Lembaga kemajuan, lembaga kemajuan tanah persekutuan, lembaga kemajuan tanah persekutuan versus Mariam, MARIAM. Okay, you know what is a Lembaga Kemajuan Tanah Persekutuan? You know what is that? Yeah. In short, we called it FELDA. You know FELDA? You know FELDA? Hello, have you ever heard of FELDA? Yeah.
Yeah, we heard before.
Heard FELDA. Lembaga Kemajuan Tanah Persekutuan. In short, we call that FELDA. FELDA versus Mariam. What happened in this particular case? Yeah. I'm trying, explain what happened in this particular case. Yeah, the owner of the land is Felda. The owner of the land is Felda, but they have given it for the contractors. They have given it leased to the contractors to uh, do certain work in that particular land. These contractors, they put up kongsi, temporary structures for the workers to stay. But what happened? That Kongsi collapsed and some were injured and some even died. Now, who is responsible? Who is in control of that particular land? The Felda, right? So they held it. They are liable. Are you following? Hello? You get it? Hello? Clear, not clear? Hey, why the silence here?
But I thought the contractor should be in charge because he is the one who built it.
Yeah, but who need to supervise? Who need to supervise? Who the owner of the premises? They must
Um,
ensure that the contractor complies to all that bylaws or whatever it is, even though it's a temporary structure. Even though it's a temporary structure.
But he have a contract with the, he have already raised the contract to the contractor one.
But even though they have let it to contractor, but who's the owner of the land? They must make sure, because this is only for temporary, no, not for long run, only for temporary. So here, the owners must also ensure that the people or the contractor are complying to all the things. Okay, let's say I'm the owner of a building. Okay, I've rented to the person, but I must make sure that the person who's occupying my land is only using it for lawful purposes, not for illegal purposes. Can I turn around and say, I don't know what they're doing, I rent it out to them, it's not my problem? Can I say that? And let's say they're using that premises to distribute drugs or whatever they're doing that premises. Can I say, uh, every month they pay me the money, I never bother about them? Can I say that in the court?
But how about, I have some case before of this kind of
Ah,
thing.
mm,
But
mm,
inside the agreement they have a written for residential purpose. So both have signed the agreement already. But after that,
ah.
the tenant is using for the gambling place
Okay, so okay, right. Now going back to your question, the tenancy agreement says it's only for what purpose?
for residential.
Okay, only for residential purpose. But the person who's occupying it other than residential use. Am I right? True,
Yes,
isn't it? Okay. Now the question here is, so are you saying that the owner is not responsible?
I'm curious about that because when
Ah,
owner want to list for this tenant, he knowing that he only for the residential purpose. That's why he signed the agreement.
yes, correct. But don't you think it's also the duty of the owner to ensure that that premises is only used for residential purpose and not for any commercial use? It's very subjective matter. Yes, it's a very subjective matter. You can't expect the owner to go and check every now and then for what purpose they are using it. Am I right? But don't you think it's an obligation of the owner also to ensure that this particular premises is only used for the sole purpose for which it was rent out? But you can argue it both angles, am I right? True, isn't that the owner can say that, look here, I've already rented out to them only for this purpose. I thought that they're using only for that purpose, but I never knew that they're using it for other than for residential use. Am I right? True, isn't that?
Mm.
Ah, but that's a very subjective matter. That's very subjective matter. Whether there's any complaint for the neighbors, so many factors will take into consideration. Whether let's say the neighbors are complaining that these people are using it for other purpose, and the landlord is not doing anything. As long as he receives the monthly rental, he's okay with it. So if there's any, these few factors will taken into consideration in deciding
So
whether
in law, they will be liable for the owner, right?
Yeah, of
Mm,
course.
okay.
But it's also here the duty of the owner to ensure that the premises is used for only for legal purposes. You see, especially here nowadays here, the owners knowingly sometimes the owners here knowingly now you see it become a trend they're using residential areas for gambling now because they know that the local authorities are raiding uh, business premises. Am I right? But here the owner knew about it, but nonetheless he just remaining silent. So obviously, this is a very subjective matter. It's not an objective matter, but subjective. But so many factors will be taken into consideration here. But of course, in a residential area, you can't do business. Am I right? In a residential area, you can do business gambling. Especially, of course, the neighbors would have complained to the local authorities, right? Middle of the night, people are coming in, going out, and all the things. Am I right? True, isn't there? So it depends. If let's say one row of houses all being used for gambling purposes, that situation, because nobody will complain that because the whole row of houses has been let out for gambling purposes. So here it's very subjective, that depends. But of course the owner will deny, always the owner will deny, I'm not aware. That's what the owner will say. I never knew that they're using it for this purpose. Only now I came to know. That will be the defense for the owner always. But don't you think it's also the duty of the owner to ensure that the premises are used only for commercial, only for residential purpose? It's very subjective, am I right? It goes on a situation to situation. Okay. Okay. Now, can you see the word here, lawful visitors, in slide 4? So here you need to distinguish between lawful visitors and unlawful visitors into that premises. Okay, lawful visitors and unlawful. Okay, who are lawful visitors into that building? Who are lawful visitors? Can you think of? Postman, meter readers. They're all lawful visitors. Am I right? True, isn't it? Hello?
Yeah.
They have the right to visit the building. If let's say they are in that building, if they're injured, is the owner of the premises liable? Of course, they're liable. Am I right? True, isn't it? They are what you call as lawful visitors. They are legally in that building for a purpose, but only for a short duration. This is how you say lawful visitors. Then who are unlawful visitors? Who are unlawful visitors? Who supposed not to be in that building? Am I right? They are not legally invited into that building. They are not legally invited into that building. So they are unlawful visitors. Am I right? Unlawful visitors, can you put them as trespassers? Can you say they are trespassers? Unlawful visitors, can you say that they are
Cannot.
trespassers?
Cannot.
Okay, then who are trespassers?
Uh,
Who are trespassers? Trespassers are person who should not be in that building, but they are in there, isn't there? Am I right? You see, a trespassers here, you have to be very careful. You see, like children going into buildings. So here you need to establish what was the intention to be there. Am I right? True, isn't there? Hello? Betul kan? You see, can you see here, yeah? Can you see? I'll read out the thing here. Those who have express permission to visit, those who have implied permission to visit, and those with a lawful right to visit. The express permission category refers to those who are expressly invited into the premises by some means. Okay, expressly they are invited to that building, yeah, for a meeting. This is what you mean by express. Okay, you are arranging a meeting, you are inviting these people. So they are in there with the permission. That's what you call as express permission. Okay, they are invited to the play. Occupiers can limit the extent of express invite in terms of place, behavior, or time. Someone who deviates from such instruction will be considered as trespassers. Okay, let's say, what do you mean by the last sentence there? Yeah, let's say you've been invited to that building. Okay, you're supposed to be in that place for 2 hours. The meeting is over. Even after the expiry of 2 hours, you are still hanging around in that particular premises. You are not supposed to be legally in that premises. Am I right? You're only invited to be in that building for 2 hours. Your job is done. You should vacate that premises. Am I right? If you're still hanging around there, loitering around there, you become a trespasser. Are you following? Hello? Hello? Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
So you all are trespassers because you came in there, you are invited expressly to be in that building for 2 hours. Okay. Once, for what purpose you're invited, it's done, you should leave the premises. If you're still hanging around there, you're supposed not to be there, and then you're considered as trespassers. Okay, now I'll come back to that. Yeah, if trespassers are injured, is the owner liable? I'll come back to that later. Yeah. Okay.
Sir, so the trespassers is lawful visitor or unlawful visitor?
Okay. They you see, they came in lawfully. They came in lawfully because they've been invited by the owners. Am I right? For a purpose. Once that purpose is completed, they should leave the premises. Am I right? The moment they did not leave the premises and they're still hanging around there, then they're called trespassers. Because the objective of them being in the building has been fulfilled, they should vacate that particular place. But if they're still hanging around there, then of course they become trespassers because they are supposed not to be there. But they came into that premises legally. They came into that premises legally. But the purpose for which they came in has expired. They should leave the premises.
So
Are you-
when when he is injured, so the owner is lawful or unlawful?
Coming to this situation, it is governed by the 1984 Act. When they are coming in for 2 hours, they are under the 57 Act. But once the time frame has expired, then they fall under the 1984 Act. That will come back later, the 1984. Whether it will protect them or not, or will they be not protected? Okay, we'll come back to that. Yeah. So that means, you know what is the trespasser now? Yeah, they're coming in legally, and then after that, they're supposed not to be in that premises, but they're still there. Then they are liable. Okay, now you see, trespassers can also mean another side. Yeah, trespasser can be also like this. Let's say you are taking a shortcut to go to another place. You are taking a shortcut, so you are going through another person's land to go into another building. You are using a shortcut. And while you are in that premises, you're not supposed to be there. You're also a trespasser. You're also a trespasser because you're using that as a shortcut to go in. Am I right? You're also a trespasser. You're not legally supposed to be in that particular place, even though your objective is not to stay there permanently, but only to pass through to go to another location. But you're also a trespasser. You are legally supposed to not be in that. Yeah. Okay. Express means you are invited. Right now, we're going to implied permission. Express permission means expressly you are invited with a letter. Okay, you are coming into this building for a meeting, so you are given a expressly you are being invited. What do you mean by implied? Category include those who lack express permission but whose presence is assumed to be unobjectionable to the occupier. What do you mean by this? The permission can also be limited expressly or by natural limitation, which apply for many forms of implied. Implied permission can come into being if any occupier knows that their land is being used by trespasser but does nothing. Okay. Now, implied permission, yeah. Implied permission means you suppose you are not invited, but you are in that building, but the owner just remains silent, never say anything. Okay, now if you are injured, are the owner liable? What do you think? You are not invited in that building, but the owner did not object that you are in that building. While you are in that building, you are injured. Is the owner liable? Is the owner liable? What do you think? Logically, what do you think logically?
Yes.
Yes, because you have given an implied, you have impliedly given permission. Am I right? You are impliedly have given permission. You did not restrict that person to be there. Am I right? That's implied. So implied can also apply. Yeah? Implied can also apply to others also who are being in that building, but the owner didn't say anything. So that means, yeah, the owner feels that he's in that building for maybe for a certain purpose, but even didn't question or anything. Maybe the owner feels that by this person present in that building is not going to harm him or anything like that. In remaining silence, then of course, if anything happens to him, then the owner is liable. Are you following? Okay, you see, yeah. Okay, let me explain one thing, yeah. You all need to know, yeah. There's one law called adverse possession. Pernah dengar tak? Especially estate agency student, adverse possession. Have you heard of the word adverse possession? Adverse, ADVERSE, possession. Okay, you see, in Malaysia, yeah, adverse possession, you cannot own that land. Whereas in England, you can. Okay, what do you mean by adverse possession? Yeah, let's say a piece of land, no fencing in that land, no fencing in that land. Okay, the land has been open, but one person is the owner of that plot of land, but he did not fence that particular land. Okay, somebody has gone into that land and cultivated for more than 19 years, and the owner of that particular land did not say anything, did not question him, or just kept silence. After the 20th year, the person who has occupied or cultivated that particular land will become the owner of the land. Will become the owner of the land. Are you all aware of that? Whereas in Malaysia, even if you can stay in a land for more than 20 years, you can never become the owner of the land because adverse possession does not apply in Malaysia. That's why in England, yeah, if you see any vacant land, yeah, they'll put up a fencing for it, They put up a fencing. Are you following? Hello? Is it a good law? You know why in Europe, in European countries, they say, let's see, the owner of the building, he just let the land to be idle there, not utilizing it. So another person is utilizing it for whatever use, yeah? If he has been constantly using it for more than 20 years, then he becomes the owner of that particular land. But is it a fair law or not fair law? Yeah, what do you think? Hello? Hello? Because they're using it for a good purpose, am I right? Maybe the owner has a lot of land, he's not bothered, am I right? But in Malaysia, there's no such thing as that, We don't have adverse possession in Malaysia. That's why, yeah, you see the squatter areas, squatter areas, they would have built up the house there they've been living there for 20 years, 30 years, yeah. Still, the local authorities will come and demolish them. Can they say that, hey, I've been living in this land for the last 30 years. I'm the owner of this particular land and also the house which I put up there. Can they say that? No, because adverse possession doesn't apply in Malaysia, only in the European countries. But sometimes, yeah, do you think adverse possession should also be implemented in Malaysia? What do you think? Is it a good law or bad law? That's what just now that student said that if they're not utilizing the land, at least let others to cultivate that. At least it will be a benefit for them, am I right? Rather than leaving it idle there without for any good purpose for anyone, am I right? True, isn't it? Hello?
Yes.
True, isn't it? Okay. Okay, now, the lawful right of entry categories encompasses those who maintain a right to enter the land or property regardless of the occupier's wishes. Those who enter property in accordance with a valid contract are held to be lawful visitors under the Act, and notably, if relevant, contract provides for a higher standard of care, it will apply. So lawful right of entry means who are coming into that premises with a legal right, even though the occupier is not, even though the occupier did not wish them to be there, but they're coming in legally into that building. Legally, they're getting into that building. They are what you call as lawful right of entry. This applies to delivery people, uh, postman, and all these people. It doesn't. It applies to all of them. Yeah. Okay. Occupies duty. This is very very important. Yeah. Slide 8 is very very important. Yeah. Slide 8 is very very important. Yeah. Duties of occupier. So that means, yeah, what this is saying is that what is the duty of the occupier? Okay, an occupier must take such care as in all circumstances of the case reasonable to see that the visitors will be reasonably safe in using the premises for the purpose for which is invited or permitted by the occupant to be there. So that means, yeah, the definition of duty of care which implies to the owners is the occupier of that premises or building must ensure that the visitors who are coming into that building or land is safe and sound for whatever purpose which they are coming into that building for. So that means there is the duty of the owner to ensure that the visitors are safe in that premises while they are there. Okay. So that means here the duty on the occupier or the owner must ensure that the building or the land is safe and sound for them while they are invited into that premises. Okay, here we are going back on duty of care. We have done duty of care, right? Hello? Have I done duty of care with you all? Hello?
The slide have.
I've done, isn't the duty of care I've done with you all, right?
You mean previous class or what?
You remember on negligence, have I done negligence with you all?
No, I think.
No, no.
I have not done negligence with you all, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I think no.
Okay. In fact, I should have done negligence on duty of care before coming into this topic. But why I'm rushing into this topic is because of your question on your midterm exam. That's a thing. But okay, let me explain what is duty of care. Yeah. Okay. Duty of care. What do you mean by duty of care? Yeah. Okay. This duty of care. Hello. This duty of care was established in one landmark case, called Donahue versus Stevenson. Donahue, Donoghue versus Stevenson, Stevenson, Stevenson. Because this is the leading case here which laid down what is duty of care. What do you mean by duty of care? Okay, what do you mean by duty of care? Now, do I owe a duty of care towards my neighbor? Do I owe a duty of care towards my neighbor? What do you think? Do I owe a duty of care towards my neighbor? Okay. Who said no? Yeah, Shelly. Yeah. Hello. Siapa kata no?
Haley.
Okay. Now, I'll come back to your answer later. Yeah. Okay. This duty of care was laid down in one landmark case called Donahue versus Stevenson in 1932. What is duty of care was laid down in one case in 1932 by the highest court of England. Until today in Malaysia, we are following the law laid down in this case. Yeah. Okay. Now, have I explained to you all what is, you all know what's the law of contract, right? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you all know what is the law of thought? Do you all know what is the law of thought?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I have explained to you all the difference between law of thought and law of contract, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Since Shelley said aloud, yes, can you tell me in one sentence what the difference? Sally,
Huh?
what's the difference between law of tort and law of contract?
A law of contract is there's a contractual relationship between two parties where they must fulfill the terms and condition. So if one
Okay.
party fulfill, then we need to breach.
Okay, all right. So that means there's a contractual relationship between two parties. If one party breach, then the affected party can sue to recover for whatever loss or damage suffered. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, then what's the law of tort?
No relationship between the parties.
But yet could be liable, am I right? But yet one party could be held liable towards the other, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when I explained that, did I explain to you all the case of Donahue and Stevenson?
Yes, you did.
I did, right?
Yes.
So you all know what is duty of care, right? I need to repeat again now, right?
Yes.
Hello, everyone? Janice? Son, Janice, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Ah. So you all know what happened in that particular case, right? Donahue and Stevenson.
Yeah, regarding the drinks have the snail. is it?
Correct. So here, okay, now, so since you all know, yeah, I'm going to repeat there. So that means we are going back to the slide again now, yeah? Okay, duty of care. When I say duty of care means, do the owner of the premises owes a duty of care towards others. When I say others, here can be visitors, yes or no? Occupier,
Can you repeat the question again?
okay, now the question is this: do the owner of the premises owes a duty of care towards others? When I say others, can be invited guests or uninvited guests or visitors. Do they owe a duty of care towards them? Yes or no?
I think it's only for lawful visitor, only,
Okay.
not for.
Okay. So that means what you are saying there, what you are saying is that the owner of the premises owe a duty of care towards legal and lawful visitors who are coming into that land or premises, or anyone who has been invited to come in there.
The person who have the permission
A permission
lawful.
or legal right to be there. Or legal right to be there. So that means you are saying that the owners or the occupiers only owes a duty of care towards them. Am I right? Not to, as far as the 1957 Act is concerned, not to unlawful visitors, only to legal visitors or anyone who has been expressly invited into that particular premises or land. Am I right? Okay. So that means here, okay, you are right. So that means the occupier or the owner owes a duty of care towards this category of people. Okay, while this is relatively similar to negligence duty of care, the ability of the occupier to modify the exact nature of the duty should be noted. A distinction should also be noted that the duty is based around preventing injury in visitors rather than ensuring the premises are objectively safe. So that means, yeah, when I say in the sense of occupier's duty here, the occupier must ensure there is no negligent act done by the occupiers to cause harm to anyone who is in that particular premises or area. Let's say you are the occupier of that building. The building is wet. The building is wet here. There's no signboard to say the building is wet. Okay, let's say somebody has done some watering, they never mop the floor. You should put a display there to say a wet floor. Then the visitor will be cautious. Am I right? Let's say there's no signboard and someone slip and fall and injured. Is the occupier or the owner held liable?
Yes.
Yes, definitely held liable because it is the negligent act of the occupier for not displaying a signboard to say it is a wet floor. Am I right? So that means that there must be a negligent act by the occupier. If there's a negligent act by the occupier, then if anything, injury or harm happen to the visitors, the legal visitors or who have been invited, then the owner of the premises will be responsible. Clear? Okay. Now we go into different visitors, yeah, special visitors. Right, for two special sort of visitors, children and skill visitors for whom the applicable duty of care is higher and lower respectively. Okay, now children's. You see, when we say visitors here, children's, should they be given extra uh, what do you call that, extra precautions should be taken to ensure that they are safe there than adults? What do you think? Do you think the owner of the premises should take extra care than the adults if the children are coming to that premises?
Yes.
Proper fencing, am I right? That kind of things, am I right? True, isn't there? So here, what they're trying to say is that greater care is required. Greater care is required if children are getting into that premises. Okay, what about those who are handicapped? They need to use a wheelchair. Do you think there should be a passage for wheelchair to pass through in that building? Yes. Let's say there's only staircase. There is no pathway to push a wheelchair. So that means the occupier of the building did not take the necessary steps of precaution to ensure safety for those who are handicapped. Am I right? So this all comes under that, this category. The owner of the building must make sure that not only adults will be coming to that building, and also handicapped person will be coming to that building. They must also provide a safe and conducive environment for them to enter into that building. So that means, yeah, the duty of care for the occupier for children are greater than adult, because like sometimes children can be very mischievous. They'll be running up and down. If any electrical appliances on all the thing must be properly maintained and all the things, right? Because children, they wouldn't know, they might go and get electrocuted, this kind of things, all, am I right? So of course, more precaution should be taken if that particular premises they're going to bring in children's for whatever purposes, especially like buildings where they're having preschool. Then of course there should be more cautious, am I right, to make sure that the children are safe in there, am I right? True, isn't there? Betul kan? So you see, at these cases, can you see Phillips versus Rochester, and also case of Glasgow Corporation versus Taylor? Yeah, these are the cases which ensure that if children are getting in that premises, then obviously more precaution or more stricter compliances need to be done by the owners of the premises, by the owners of the premises in that situation, because this is more important. Okay, take down this case. When I say children's here, I think this case is slide, Khalid Chelby versus Kinrara Group Estate Limited. I think that case, I've given in detail that case here. I'll run to that case later. Yeah. Okay, now let me see. Older children are less. So you see, a children's also you can categorize into two. Okay, children's, what age are children's here? Hello? When I say children's, umur berapa? Okay, 18. That means those who are 18 and below are children, am I right? Okay, let's say a child at 17 years old. Can you categorize a 17-year-old and 8-year-old children? Same, can you treat them equally? 17 years old and 8 years old. Can you put them into the same category? Can you put them? So here, 6, 7, 8, they are also children, am I right? Betul kan? age 6, 7, and 8 also children. 16, 17, 18 also children. Can you put them equally and treat them equally? Cannot, because you have to be more careful if children's like 5, 6, 7 are getting into that premises, because 16, 17, 18 they know between the right and the wrong. Am I right? So here more precaution should be given, or more steps should be taken to ensure the safety of the children if they knew that children will be coming in. If sometimes mothers will be bringing young children into that building, like hospitals or some other places here, then of course here more precaution should be taken. Clear? So that means here the degree of precaution depending on what kind of visitors were coming in there, because for what purpose they have that building. If that building is a welfare building, a welfare, then children will be coming in, pregnant mothers will be coming in, then of course more precaution should be taken. Am I right? So it's all depend for what purpose that building is for. So depend on that, they must tailor the safety according to the needs, according to the needs. Are you following? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay, now can you see there one on your slide 10? Yeah, can you see a case there? Tichenor versus British Railway Board. Nampak tak one case there? Can you see a case there?
Yeah,
Yes.
can.
Okay, you see here. Now, why am I highlighting this case here? Sometimes, like railway tracks, railway tracks, Normally, railway tracks here, both sides there'll be fencing, am I right? There'll be fencing, am I right? Why? Because to prevent people from crossing the railway track, am I right? If, let's say, there is a children's playground, there's a children's playground on one side of the track after the fencing, and that fencing must be maintained without any holes or anything, right? Because if, let's say, the fencing is not proper, has been torn down or whatever, then children might use that uh, to go through the trekking, right? If they're injured, then the person who's maintaining or owning that railway track will be held liable. Here, more caution should be taken. More caution should be taken, because that is a playground around that area. So children will be very mischievous if there's no proper fencing, or there's a hole in that fencing. The children will use that hole to pass through and cross over the railway tracking. If they're injured while the train is moving, then the owner of the premises will be held liable, because uh, the owner of that premises should foresee that children are very mischievous. They must make sure there is no holes, or there must be a proper fencing to prevent children from crossing over. Uh, so it depends on the situation. It depends on the situation. So that case you can set for that purposes. So that means here, it depends the location. It depends also on the location. Like especially playground area, there must be a proper fencing and all the things. Am I right? Okay. Right, let me see here. I'm not going to go through all the scripts here, all the things here. Okay, so you know the duty of care. Duty of care, of course, on the occupier. It depends for what purpose that building is for, and what category of people who are coming in there. Sometimes even very, very elderly people will be coming in there. Then there must be a proper passage for them, especially you see, especially in European countries, most of the buildings here, they have access to wheelchairs, wheelchairs, but quite a lot of buildings in Malaysia, they don't have this access, for wheelchair users to get access, and also for blind people and all the things, so that have to take into consideration. They have to take into consideration. Okay, can you see here on your slide 11? Yeah, can you see on slide 11? Okay, can you see the case of general cleaning contractors versus limited versus Christmas? Christmas, the name of a person, Okay, now, can you see it should be noted that just because a risk is of a nature which might be encountered by skilled visitors, that does not dispel the entirety of the occupier's duty of care. An occupier must still act reasonably. The principle applies most often in case of injuries incurred by firefighters. Okay, now, these two cases, can you see the Salman C. Ferris case and the above general cleaning cases? Yeah, buildings, there must be proper access. There must be proper access in case of emergency. Access in case of emergency. So that means, yeah, there must be a proper widen staircase, because if there's a fire, then of course they cannot use the lift. Am I right? There must be proper widen staircase for access for people to escape, and also for firemen to go into the building. Then this all they must comply to the local authorities, right? This is also the duty of the owner of the premises to comply to whatever rules and regulation which is set by the local authorities for easy access, fire exit, and all the things. Am I right? Uh, these things and all the things, and also fire safety things. Because in okay now, hello, out of these students, how many of you are driving? Hello,
Yes, yes,
I think most of you are driving, right?
yes,
Okay, now vehicle comes at the premises. Am I right?
yes,
Okay, now who's the person who says yes? Class rep, is it?
yeah,
Now, do you have a fire extinguisher in your car?
no,
Ah, you see, this is a basic thing. You should have one, isn't it? Betul kan? Because that is your premises. You are in control. Let's say you are fetching 2, 3 others, and a fire had taken place. You don't have a fire extinguisher in your car. Are you responsible for those who are injured? Your guests in the car. Betul kan? Hello?
But
yes.
this kind of things put inside the car will be more dangerous, right?
What then? I can't hear you.
But the fire extinguisher put inside the car is it will be more dangerous.
No, I don't think so, because they are made for that purpose. Am I right? Put in cars, isn't it? Because to expose to humid weather and all the things. Am I right? True, isn't there? So you see, you see, when we say premises, that's your premises. You are in control there. You must make sure that whoever you are taking is safe and sound. Let's say you are driving out of KL, a remote area. Kalau kereta bakar, so what's going to happen? You maybe 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers away, the nearest fire brigade station. So we have to take the necessary steps as a reasonable person. Am I right? Okay, now you see, can you see this 12 here? Can you see slide 12 here? Warnings. This is very, very important. Yeah. Warnings. Notice of warnings must be displayed. Warning of notice must be displayed. You remember we did on exemption clause. Remember when we did law of contract? Hello? You all know what's exemption clause, right?
Yes, yes.
What's exemption clause? Apa tu? What is exemption clause? Can anyone quickly tell me what is an exemption clause and what's the purpose of it? Hello, what is exemption clause and what?
I
Yes.
think it's like the owner put a sign to like warn the visitor or the customer to be careful. So the owner don't have the responsibility if the visitor injured.
So you see, the purpose why parties are displaying an exemption clause. Exemption clause can be exclusion clause or what? Limitation clause. What the purpose is to exclude liability. to exclude liability, to say that since I already put up a notice, I'm not going to held responsible. Am I right? So of course we have also known that that exemption clause must be brought to the attention of the parties if at the time of entering to building or even before entering to building, they must be aware. Isn't it? Only then the owner of the premises can rely on that. Am I right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now going back to the slide. Yeah. Let's say you're putting a notice. You are entering into this building at your own risk. Any injury or death take place while you are in this building, the owner of this building would not be held liable. A big signboard at the entrance of the building. Everyone seeing that and going to the building, and the ceiling fall and they injured. Is the owner of the building responsible or not responsible? What do you think?
Not responsible. He already.
So you are saying they've already put up. So what they are trying to say is they have already put up a signboard. So they're relying on that signboard and they are not responsible. That's what you're saying, right, Yong?
I think it's more depends on situation lah. If the building is new built or something, then it's definitely the owner's fault lah.
Okay.
Then if
Alright.
the building is old, it's almost want to collapse or something, then if the visitor still want to visit and injured, then that is not the owner's problem.
Hello, at the entrance, the signboard only saying that you are entering into this building at your own risk. Any injury or death take place while inside the building, the owner is not responsible. In a big lettering, everyone seeing that and going to the building. And while they are there, there's something happen and the ceiling fall and let's say a few of them are injured and one or two died. But everyone has seen that signboard. Is the owner responsible? Uh, Janice, Janice, are you on the line?
Yeah,
Are they responsible or not responsible?
I didn't hear of your questions.
The question is, yeah, there's a signboard at the entrance of the building. It says in a big letter, yeah, at the entrance itself, whoever entering into this building are entering at their own risk. Any injury or death take place while you are in this building, the owner of this premises is not held liable. Okay, everyone seen that notice and they're going to the building after 2 hours. The ceiling collapsed and some of them are injured. Is the owner responsible or not responsible? Because
Responsible.
why? Why are you saying responsible? But the visitors have already seen that signboard there.
Yeah, the signboard is saying that you enter this building if anything's happen, but this kind of the ceiling all is a structural work. It's not that I'm doing anything, ma. So he is the owner is liable.
The owner is liable. Any others? Any others can quickly tell me?
Same, because even though it's stated that you die or injured, it's on your own risk, but then there's still the responsibility of the owner to ensure the safety of the people.
But the owner will say, "Hey, I've already put up a signboard. You are entering to this building at your own risk. So you seen that you're taking the chance and coming in there. So I'm not responsible. Can he again?"
It's this kind of the things of the owner liable. Then all of the building will put this kind of signboard. All people die also no problem.
Okay, you see, you remember when I did on the exemption clause here. You remember I did one part of it, Unfair Contract Terms Act 1977, which came to enforcement on 1st February 1978. Section 2, subsection 1, section 2, subsection 2. You remember?
Yes.
Because section 2, subsection 1 says you cannot exclude liability for personal injury and death. You can never ever exclude liability for personal injury and death. That's what section 2, subsection 1 says. Section 2, subsection 2 says you can exclude liability for loss or damage to property provided reasonable steps have been taken, right? Because here, if this case goes to the court, the judge will say, you can put whatever notice you want, but it is for the court to decide whether that notice is reasonable or not reasonable. The judge will say, hey, this notice is unreasonable. How can you say that everyone is entering into this building at your own risk? Because you, as the owner of the building, you must make sure that the building is safe and sound for all visitors. So you cannot exclude liability for personal injury and death. So in this situation, of course, the owner of the premises has to take responsibility for whatever death or injury suffered by the visitors there. Dapat? You get it? Hello?
Yes, yes.
So going back to the thing now, yeah. So proper signboard must be displayed. Proper signboard must be displayed. But whatever signboard is on display, it must be reasonable. You can put whatever signboard you want, but it is for the court to decide whether that signboard is reasonable or not reasonable. Especially when you're putting up signboards, warnings, yeah, it must be clear at the main entrance or where people could easily view it, especially where children are involved, whereas children are involved. They are very, very important. Yeah. Okay. Now, so far on that, yeah. Now go back to independent contractors. Can you see on slide 13, independent contractors? Okay. I think last week on vicarious liability, right? Hello? I did on vicarious liability last week, right?
Yes, yes.
You all know what's vicarious? You all know what is vicarious liability, right?
Yeah.
What is vicarious liability? Tell me quickly.
If I drive and then I hit someone, then I need to respond to him. I need to be responsible to him.
Vicarious liability only applies for contract of service and not for contract for service. Am I right?
Yeah.
Because they must come under Section 2 of the Employment Act 1955. Am I right? There must be an employee-employee relationship, right? Betul kan? But it doesn't apply for independent contractors. Am I right? Yes or no? Vicarious liability does not apply for independent contractors. Am I right?
Yeah, only boss and the workers.
It doesn't apply for independent contractors right now. We're looking at independent contractors as far as vicarious liability is concerned. As noted in the chapter on vicarious liability, it is usually not possible to attribute the action of an independent contractor to the employer, that we know. Yeah, a list of situations in which an occupier will be held liable for harm caused by an independent contractor. A list of situations in which an occupier will be held liable for harm caused by an independent contractor. Firstly, where in what was unreasonable to entrust the work to an independent contractor in the first place. Secondly, where the occupier failed to take reasonable steps to ensure the independent contractor was competent. And thirdly, where the occupier has failed to take reasonable steps to check the work of an independent contractor. In all these situations, then the occupier will be liable, because the occupier is the one who is, the first, second, and third, what it applies to independent contractors. If let's say an independent contractor has come to that building, he has done some work which has caused harm to other occupants in that building. Independent contractor has done some work and it has caused injury or damage to occupants in that building. Now, the question here is, they are independent contractors. Is the occupier of that building or the owner of the building liable or not for the negligent act of the independent contractor? Here, as far as occupiers liability is concerned, they are liable, because it is the duty of the owner or the occupier to ensure whoever independent contractors which they are hiring or recruiting must be competent, and they must be skillful to carry out that work. And also the owner must ensure that the work is done properly. If they fail to do all these things, if any harm or endanger suffered by the occupants of the building or people who have been in that building for whatever legal purpose, then the owner or the occupier of the building will be liable for the negligent act of the independent contractors. As long as you know this is enough. Are you following? Because the owner is the one, or the occupier is the one who is hiring these independent contractors, am I right? So they must make sure that they are competent people and reliable people, and if they fail to check their work, if anything happened or anyone injured, then the owner will be liable towards. Let's say an independent contractor has come to that building, he has done some electrical work. Okay, he did not do it properly, and some of the visitors legally coming to that building, they are electrocuted. Okay, due to some faulty electric wiring or whatever. Now, can the owner of the building say, "Hey, go and sue the independent contractor. They are the one who did the work. Go and sue them." Can they say that? Cannot. Hello, are you listening?
Can you repeat again the questions?
The question here is, let's say I'm the owner of the building, I've called some independent contractors to do some work in my building. They've done the work, negligently. The electric wiring have not done properly. If they're done and they left, and then some visitors, legal visitors entering my building, they got electrocuted, and some of them injured, or one or two dead. Now, can I blame the independent contractors? Go and sue the contractor. They are the one who did the job. They are responsible for your injury. Can I say that?
No.
Cannot.
Can I say that?
Cannot.
Why?
Because the owner is in charge to like supervise the independent contractor.
And also one failed to supervise, and secondly, he has recruited or hired an incompetent person. Am I right? So I, as the owner of the building, I must take the responsibility towards the third party who has suffered the injury. Am I right? Even though they're independent contractors, because I was the one who hired them, right? So I should ensure that they have done a proper job. True, isn't it? End of the day, whoever in that premises who suffered injury or damage, they will sue the owner of the building, not the independent contractor. They wouldn't know who has done the job or whoever. Am I right? I'm in your premises, I'm injured. So therefore, I'm going to sue you to recover for whatever loss or damage which I've suffered. True, isn't it? I'm in your building, I'm injured now. So I'm suing you. I don't know who has done the job. It's not my concern. Betul kan? True, isn't it? Am I right? Logic or not logic? Hello?
Yeah, logic.
Huh? Not logic.
Logic.
Logic definitely isn't it? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm injured while I'm in your building. Whoever might have done the job, I'm not bothered about them. I don't know who are they also, but I'm in your building. I suffered injury, I'm going to sue you. Because you as the owner, you must make sure that the building is safe and sound for everyone. Am I right? So here, independent contractors, any fault done by the independent contractors, the occupier is also held responsible. Okay. Okay, now we look into some of the defenses. Is there any defenses? The defenses for who now we are talking about? Defenses for who? When I say defenses for who?
The visitor.
Huh?
Or the visitor, is it? Or
Is it for the visitor or the owner of the building?
I think it's the owner of the building. Since
yeah. What are the defenses available for them, right? Okay, now defenses. The first is the defense of consent. Visitors will often be in a situation in which they are aware of risk but choose to continue anyway. So a visitor who is aware of a wild horse but decides to continue into its field regardless may well be held to have consented to the risk. Okay, if let's say they've agreed to come in knowing that there is a horse which is a bit dangerous, but they agree to come in there, then can the owner of that premises say, you have consented knowing that there's a horse which is dangerous, but you are willing to take the risk. So if any injury suffered because of that particular horse, I as the owner am I responsible? You have already consented, you know about it, you are aware of the wild horse, but it might suddenly run and come and jump on you. But you have agreed to it. Then it becomes a defense for the owner of that premises. Am I right? Am I right? Yes or no? Hello? So it becomes yes. Secondly, there will often be scenarios in which a visitor has acted poorly around a risk, and thus the defense of contributory negligence can be raised. You know what's contributory negligence, right? Hello? So contributory negligence is also a defense for the occupier. What do you mean by contributory negligence? Hello, Young Wen Bin. What is the contributory negligence? I did explain when I did on negligence on what is contributory negligence, right? Hello, can anyone help me? Quick.
I think you didn't mention. You skip the what the contributory necklaces
Did I
before.
not? I never explain what's contributory negligence.
Yeah, you never explain.
Okay. Now take down this here. Contributory negligence means contributory negligence means okay. This is a civil case, right? So this will be between the plaintiff and the defendant, right? Yes or no? If let's say some visitors have come in there and they're injured, so they will become the plaintiff and the owner of the building will become the defendant, am I right? Because the plaintiff will be suing the defendant, am I right? Yes or no? Okay. So what is contributory negligence means here? The plaintiff also has contributed towards the injury. The plaintiff also has contributed towards the injury. Not only the defendant is solely responsible, but at the same time, the plaintiff also has contributed towards the injury. Contributory negligence comes under Section 12 of the Civil Law Act 1956 of Malaysia. Okay, I'll give you an example here. What do you mean by contributory negligence? Yeah, let's say you are driving a car. Yeah, and the person who is the defendant drove his car negligently or recklessly. The defendant drove the car recklessly and he hit your car. Not fault on you, but the negligence is on the defendant because he drove the car recklessly and he hit your car. And you did not wear a safety belt while you're driving. Since you did not wear a safety belt, the impact of the hit, you have flown out of the windscreen of the car and you are injured. Now, end of the day, the defendant is liable. The defendant is liable because he drove the car negligently. But at the same time, the plaintiff also contributed towards the injury. If the plaintiff would have wear a safety belt, he wouldn't have flown out of the windscreen of the car. Am I right? He also contributed towards the injury, right? So in a contributory negligence, what would happen is the judge, of course, will provide damages to the plaintiff, but he will minus off whatever contributed by the plaintiff, and the balance will be paid to the plaintiff. Let's say because of that thing, let's say the total injury suffered by the plaintiff is, let's say, for 100,000 ringgit, but since he did not wear a safety helmet, he flown out of the thing, and let's say because of that injury, 30,000 for that injury. So the judge will minus off the 30,000 and pay the plaintiff only 70,000, because the plaintiff also contributed towards the injury. You know what's contributing negligence now?
Yes.
So that is what you mean by contributing negligence. So that means, yeah, it's a partial defense for the occupier. So here, if let's say the person who visited that building, he has acted unreasonably, and the injury has taken place. He knows that is a wet floor, that's a signboard, but he still walked in there. He has also contributed to the injury, right? He knows the risk, but he still walked in that premises, knowing that is a wet floor because there's a signboard already on display. So he is responsible for that. Are you following? That is what you mean by contributing negligence. Contributing negligence is not a total 100% defense, but whatever quantum of damages awarded to the plaintiff, whatever, will be deducted for whatever he has contributed, and he will get only the balance. That is what you mean by contributing negligence. Yeah, contributing negligence comes under Section 12 of the Civil Law Act 1956 of Malaysia. Are you all clear on that? Contributing negligence? Okay, we'll go back to the slides now. Yeah. Okay, so you know that will be a thing. And can you see the third one? Exclusion clause, a matter of contract, will often be employed by occupiers as means to avoid liability. Okay, let's say the owner of the premises has put up a notice, but let's say that notice is a reasonable one. Let's say the notice is a reasonable one, but the person who visited there ignored that notice and he suffered an injury. Then it could be a defense for that defendant, am I right? Provided the notice is a reasonable one. If the notice is an unreasonable one, then he is not held liable. You know what's reasonable and unreasonable? I told you, right? That all comes under Section 2, subsection 1, and Section 2, subsection 2 of the Unfair Contract Terms Act 1977. So that are the defenses, yeah, that are the quick defenses, yeah, which is available for the defendant, yeah, not for the. Okay, now we go to trespasses. Trespass. The exact definition of trespass can be found in Robert N.D. versus Sons. You know why? Quite a lot of English cases, because since we are following the 1957 and the 84 Act, yeah, the duty towards trespasser. The relevant duty of care can be found in Section 1, subsection 3 of the Act. It describes 3 criteria which must be met before a duty arises. Firstly, the occupier must be aware of the hazard. What do you mean by hazard? Or have reasonable ground to believe it exists. What do you mean by? You see here, I told you all, duty of care towards trespassers comes under which Act? 57 or 84? Hello? Hello, are you listening?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
The trespass here, it comes for who? The 57 Act or the 84 Act? Trespass comes under which Act?
I think 84.
84. But sometimes it can overlap also with, sometimes can also overlap with 57 also, you know, sometimes can overlap here. But overall, it falls under that 84 Act, yeah. Okay, now, duty of care towards trespasser. Let's say, now, the question here is, do the occupier this is an important question you need to know here. Do the occupier of the premises owes a duty of care towards trespassers? Trespassers are persons who are not invited into that premises or has not been legally invited expressly into that building, right? So they're coming into that building without any consent or without any invitation. They are what you call as trespassers, right? Now the question here is the owner of the building liable towards trespassers? Yes or no? What do you think?
If the owner know and remain silent, then he need to be responsible.
So that is what this says here. Can you see that? The first one here. Can you see that? The first one, the occupier must be aware of the hazard or have reasonable grounds to believe it exists. So the owner of the building knows what are the dangers in that particular building. And if he remains silent, and the trespasser is injured, then of course, the owner would be liable. I think that's fair, right? That's fair, am I right? True, isn't that? True, isn't that? But can you say that, hey, since you came into this building without my approval, you are injured, I'm not responsible. You die off peacefully. Can I say that? Can I say that?
Yes.
Boleh ya? But you see here, unless and until, you see unless and until, so here, as what we did mention earlier, the first one is, the owner of the premises knew what are the risks in the building. He knew what are the risks in that building, but he knows that can cause or endanger even unlawful visitors. But he remained silent. No signboard, nothing. And a trespasser had come to that building, but he acted reasonably. The trespasser acted reasonably, and he is injured. Now, is the owner of the premises liable?
What you mean remain silent? Is it
So
like
that means,
the owner
that means there's no signboard, nothing. There's no signboard, nothing. He knew this is a trespasser, and he never stopped him.
which the owner
Let's say,
knows lah.
okay, let's say the security guard on duty just let him to go in.
Oh, so what you mean is like the occupants already know lah.
The occupant already knew that this person is inside the building and is remaining silent. And that person is injured. If they had stopped him at the entrance and chased him out, and he used other ways to come into the building, then yes, I might be taking the obvious risk, am I right? But here, they just let him come into that building. Never stop him or anything. He has gone into that building and he suffered injury. Now, in this situation, what do you think? Is the owner of the building liable?
So
You see, the owner of the building would only be liable if this visitor did an act which is unreasonable in that building. And if he's injured, then of course the owner would not be held responsible, right? But if the trespasser who came to that building acting reasonably, but he suffered injury because of the risk in that particular building, and is the owner liable? That is the question now. What do you think? This is
Yes.
very subjective, but very subjective. But in this situation, he has acted reasonably, then the owner is liable because the owner knows what are the risks in that building. He knows what are the risks in that building. It could expose. Okay, you see, when we are talking about trespasser, what about children's? They come into that building unintentionally and they're injured. Can the owner of the building say, hey, look here, man, you're supposed not to be here. You are inside the building and injured. I'm not responsible. Can they turn around and say that? What do you think? This is very subjective, it goes on a case-to-case situation. Am I right? It goes on a case-to-case situation. But generally, yeah, the trespasser with this and act. Okay, let's say a robber. A robber is getting into that building. While he's robbing, yeah, he got electrocuted and he died. Can the next of kin sue?
Cannot.
Huh?
Cannot.
Cannot.
Why? Why?
Because illegal.
The purpose for which he's getting into that building, am I right?
Yeah.
The purpose is for an illegal act, am I right? Okay, now I put it in another situation, yeah. The robber has come to that building and there is no proper wiring. He got electrocuted and he died. Or the floor, let's say it's a very, very slippery floor. The robber was not aware it's a slippery floor. He slipped and injured and he got paralyzed. Can he sue the owner of the building? What do you think? Huh? Hello?
Yes.
Can he sue the owner of the building?
No lah.
Huh?
No lah.
One say yes and one say no. What's the answer then? So you have to go back and see what was his intention of going to that building, right?
What if the owner don't know you go in, then you mopping floor, then suddenly he fall down, then he can sue you?
What's that? What's your question again? Tell me.
I mean, like, if you mopping the floor, then got trespasser come in, then you don't know he's there, he sleep, then he sue you.
Okay,
That's
now,
so stupid.
okay, so here you see, for what purpose that trespasser is getting into that building you have to establish, right? He's just coming in, wrongly he has entered the building. He wrongly entered that building and he slip and fall. Then, of course, the owner will be responsible, right? But if, let's say, it's a robbery or burglary, and while they are burglaring that premises, they're injured, then is the owner liable?
Not liable.
Of course not liable, am I right? Because the purpose of them getting that building for a unlawful act, am I right?
Yeah.
So they're breaking into that building. That itself a forced entry, am I right? So this goes on a case-to-case situation, you cannot generalize, yeah, but it goes on a case-to-case intention. For what purpose they're trying to get into that building, for what purpose they're trying to get into that building, that you have to establish for what purpose they're getting into that building, the purpose. If the purpose of them is for illegal purpose, then obviously the owner, and if they can prove there's a break-in illegally into that building, then obviously they are not responsible. Am I right? If they're not responsible. Okay, what about that situation? Children's. Children are entering into a playground, supposed to be that playground, there is a lot of faulty things in that playground. For that reason, the owner of that local council, they have put up a fencing. They have put up a fencing already. Why? To not allow children to go and play in there, because that playground is not safe for the children. But what happened? Let's say the fencing, there's a torn in the fencing, and the children's, since there is a way to get into that premises, they are getting into the premises because the fence has either broken or whatever. So there's an entry to go into the premises, and the children are playing there and they're not aware there is a risk and they're injured. Now, can the owner of the premises deny them the compensation for whatever loss or injury which they suffered?
No.
I think the children is count as breaking in also, right?
But then, no,
Children.
they're not breaking in here. There is a big hole. There's a big hole in the fencing where
Got hole, then you can go in.
the children can go in.
Then if my door open, the children come in, then also can.
But then,
My door didn't close, then they can come in.
hello, there you see, I'm not talking about adult, I'm talking about children's, here, I'm talking about children's.
Yeah, I understand.
Adults, yeah, that is your negligent act also, isn't there? That you leaving your, okay, I put it a situation, yeah, listen, yeah, since you say about that, yeah, let's say you are sending your car to a car wash, you are sending your car to a car wash, yeah, and you're giving the key to the person who's doing the wash car, and then you are walking to the nearest mama stall to have your drink, okay? Coming back, you see your car is missing. Can you claim for insurance? Can you say that your car is lost and claim for insurance? Cannot. What do you think? Hello? The person who said that the door is open, the thief has get into the house, right? You are the one who mentioned that, right? Okay, in this situation, will the insurance company pay? Hello?
But it depends on the situation. The car can file or not, right? They should report to police.
Let's say let's say they couldn't find the car at all. Let's say they couldn't find the car at all. Well, okay, but you have insured for the car, you have insured for the car. Now, can you claim from the insurance company for the value of the car on the day of the loss? Let's say the value of the car on the day of the loss is 50,000 ringgit. Okay, can you claim from the insurance company?
Can.
Oh.
But do you know that? Under the insurance law, the insurance company will not pay because that's your negligent act. You should not hand over the key to a total stranger. It's a negligent act. You should hold the key. Negligent insurance companies are very good in underwriting, but when they are going to pay out, they'll be very, very cautious. They see in all angles. That's your negligent act. You should not hand over your car key to a total stranger. They are car wash people. Who are they? It's your negligent act. The insurance company won't pay out unless and until you are like you are handing over the key to jockey. Jockey. If you go in hotels, there are jockey drivers, right? They're legal, am I right? You're handing over the key. They'll be driving a key and they'll park in one safe place. And if the car is lost, then of course the hotel will be paying for them because you cannot claim from the insurance company and also from the jockey from the hotel. You cannot. You can have dual claims. Dapat. Okay. So going back to your situation, your your door is open and the thief has entered your house and stolen the goods. Okay, now you want to sue who? You want to sue who? Hello? Hello? Who's the person who said, who's the one who said that your back door is open and the thief has come into tell me. Okay, now, so you have left your back door open and the thief has come to your house and stolen your goods. Okay, your goods in your house, am I right? Okay, now you want to sue who? You want to sue who? The thief is gone, missing. You want to sue who to claim that whatever you suffered loss? Huh?
I think that one is your own fault, ma.
That's your own fault, of course. That's your own fault, right? It's your own fault, am I right? That's your negligent act, am I right? It's a negligent act.
But doesn't mean the thief is can come in, ma. Even if my own fault, doesn't mean the thief can come in.
No, but here what will happen? Of course, you will launch a police report, right? You will launch a police report. It's for the police to investigate whether they can find the thief who has stolen your house. Maybe based on the CCTV camera, they can identify who's the thief and all the things. Otherwise, it's gone. Otherwise, it's gone. It's your negligent act for not. You see, I'll tell you another situation. Always happens. Let's say you're driving. you saw a news agent in a newspaper. So what you do, you just park your car in front of the news agent. Yeah, your car is on, and you quickly running to the shop to buy a newspaper. But while you're buying the newspaper, somebody drove off your car. Since your car engine is on, yeah, and the person is walking around there, drove off your car. Will the insurance company pay? No, it's your negligent act. You should not leave the car attended while it's running. Am I right? It's your negligent act, am I right? What the insurance company pay for your negligent act? Betul kan? Yes or no? Hello?
Yes, yes.
That's about it. Okay, now let us quickly try to oh, sorry. Okay, now. Okay, can you see this slide now? Can you see this slide? Hello? Hello, can you see the slide here?
You mean you share the slide in the Google meeting, is it? Cannot.
Okay, but I don't know, but I was wondering, okay, can you all see slide 18, 19? Nampak tak? Slide 19?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, now can you see this case Smith and Lacan? Yeah, this is the original case. We say that define who that we have already known. Yeah. Okay, these cases apply for. Okay, now let me see. I just want to jump into. Wait, hold on. This is the last bit. Okay, damages. Okay, the remedies. Okay, these are the things which you need to know. Yeah. Can you see on your slide 23? Yeah. Defenses for the defendant, am I right? Defense for the who? The owner of the premises, am I right? Warnings. Warnings means if there are children, of course there must be proper signboard and all the things, right? Okay, that you all can deduct on your own, yeah. Okay, now you know what is. Let me see. It's an exclusion clause, contributory negligence. I've already told you. Remedies, pay damages, and injunction. You know what is the injunction, right? Hello, you all know what is injunction?
Yes.
Yes, tell me what is injunction. Okay, Naman, I do. Okay, I just give you all some cases which you all need to know. Yeah, go and do some work here. Okay. This case. I'm going to give a case now. Yeah, Shamsuddin versus Yap Cho Te. Shamsuddin versus Yap Cho Choh Te Teh. Okay, this case is for those who are legally authorized to enter the building. Who is legally authorized to enter a building. Okay, they are legally authorized to enter a building. Either you can use that case or another case, Takong, Takong, Takong Tabari, Tabari, versus Government of Sarawak, Got it? Okay. Now, a case for social visitors, into a building, yeah? A case for social visitors who are entering a building. Dato Banda Dewan Bandaraya, Dato Banda Dewan Bandaraya versus Ong Kok Peng versus Ong ONG Kok KOK Peng PENG, yeah? You got it? Okay. But this case, yeah, for children, if they're injured. Kalai Chelvi, KALAICHELVI. Got it? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Versus Kinrara versus Kinrara Group Estate Limited. Kinrara Group Estate Limited. You get it?